Welcome back for page 5. Let me flip to the 5th page here. We're looking at problem 23 to start, and we're simplifying some exponents. No negative exponents in final answer. Well, 43 to the 0 is just 1. 3 to the 4th, 3, 9, 27. That's 81. Done, done. These 7 A's go down here. These turns that into 3 A's. These 5 B's come up here. That's B to the 8th. C stays where it's at, and those D's come down to the basement. Part B, okay. I'm going to work from the inside out, I think, here. Z to the 0, that's 1, gone. Let me bring this 3 inside. So I have 6 cubed, that's 6, 36. 36 times 6 is 180, and 36, so 216. X to the power to power we multiply, that's 6 over 7. Y to the negative 24. Over, and these guys are not raised to any other powers other than that negative 1 on the outside there. Negative 1. At this point, I'm going to kind of do a couple things at once. I'm going to send the negative inside. So 216 and negative 1, that puts 216 in the basement. 9 to the negative 1 puts 9 upstairs. Now here, we have x's being combined. So the negative is going to move the 6/7 down here. And it's going to move the 2 up top. I'm going to write the 2 a little differently. I'm going to write 2 like that. 14 over 7. Y to the negative 24, that's going to keep it up here, but it'll keep it as a positive. And this, y to the negative 5, right? Negative 5 is going to move up to the top and join it. And z to the negative 8 will become z to the positive 8, so that will remain where it's at. So our final answer, well, first of all, this reduces by 3, as does this. Right, if you think about it, this was 6 cubed, which means it was 6 times 6 times a fancy form of 6. So I actually have 2 3's that go into this. If I think about it differently again, 2 times 3 and 2 times 3. So I'm going to take 9 out of here and 9 out of here. So I'm left with 4 times 6, 24. Now here, this 6/7 is going to come up with a 14/7, right? And that'll become x to the 8/7. A little bit of an ugly one here. And 24 and the 5 combined to make 29. And z is all by his lonesome to the 8th. All right, a little tricky one there. Just take your time, and again, you don't have to work from the inside out. I prefer to do that. Order of operations kind of tells us to, but it is all multiplication, so it really, in the end, does not make a difference if you work outside in or inside out. Number 24. For what values is f of x undefined? Well, fractions are undefined when denominators equal 0. So part A, we're asking ourselves, when does x squared plus 1 equal 0? Hopefully you see it never does. We're taking a positive number and we're adding 1. But if you don't see that, you're going to try to solve and you're going, oh, that's imaginary. Plus or minus square root of negative 1 is plus or minus I. So never or none. And what are the zeros? Well, fractions are equal to 0 when their numerators are equal to 0. And I'm going to tinker with this one a little bit because I think I might be able to group this one. If I take an x squared out of here, I'm left with x minus 1. And if I take a negative out of here, I'm left with x minus 1. Now I have x minus 1s that are in common. So I'm going to take an x minus 1 out of both of those terms, and I'm left with x squared minus the understood 1 that's here, right? I think a lot of people always forget about this invisible 1. And at this point, this is an easy one to solve now. So this one tells me x equals 1. And this one tells me x equals plus or minus 1. So I have 2 answers, 2 distinct answers, one of which is a double root. So those are the 3 roots we are expecting. Volume of an open top box, given that formula, find the value of x that maximizes volume. Then find the volume. So remember, this is volume. We're talking cubic here. So we're going to have to graph this one. But keep in mind the zeros of our function. X equals 0, x equals 10, and x equals 5. So as far as my graph is concerned, I got 0, 5, and 10 as roots. This is a positive, negative, negative. So two negatives and positive make a positive cubic, which means it goes uphill. So our graph sketch looks like this. So when I graph on my calculator, I'm going to set my window so I'm including 0 to 5 as the important part. So equation, what we got here is x, 10 minus x, and 10 minus 2x. Window, 0 to 5, so I'm going to go negative 1 to 6. Give myself a little breathing room, as I call it. And now, we're going to guesstimate, based on our graph, that the highest point occurs somewhere between 0 and 5, like at 2.5. Well, 2.5 is kind of annoying to plug in here. It's actually not too bad, especially since I have a calculator here. So I'm going to plug in 2.5, so I have 2.5 times 10 minus 2.5 is 7.5. Times 10 minus 2.5, so 10 minus 5 is another 5. So my approximate y value is 93.75. That's an approximate. So I'm going to bump it up. Let's go like 125. Okay, and of course our minimum volume is 0, so I'm going to go like, I don't know, negative 10 or something. Again, breathing room. Since I'm way above 0, I want to be more than just 1 below 0. And my scale, that's a pretty big range there, so I'm going to go 10. So I'm going to count by 10s instead of by 1s. Let's see what we got. Beautiful graph there. Our height's clearly in there. Second calc. My maximum value is number 4. Left bound, so that says go to the left of the maximum. Enter. Now go right bound, right of the maximum. Enter. And guess somewhere in between. Enter. And there's our answer, 96.225045. Okay, so 96, let's write that down here, 96.22. They're asking for the value of x also, so v of 2.11 equals that. So x is 2.11, and the volume is 96.22. Find a cubic equation with integral coefficients. Oh, can't see one. 3 and 5 plus I. Well, that's only 2. He's being tricky here. Yes, it's 2, but it's really 3 because we know that imaginaries come in conjugate pairs. So 3 comes from x minus 3. 5 plus I and 5 minus I. Remember, we have sums and products. Hopefully you remember them. The sum of these two, 5 plus I and 5 minus I, is 10. The product of these two, think about it here. I'll write it out though. 5 plus I times 5 minus I. I'm going to get 25 minus 5I plus 5I, gone, minus I squared. I squared is negative 1, so that's really plus 1. 26 is my product. And we have x squared minus the sums of x plus the product. Okay, so we have x squared minus 10x plus 26. And now I need to continue because I need to find the cubic. I'm just going to distribute my x to everything. X cubed minus 10x squared plus 26x. And now distribute negative 3 to everything. Minus 3x squared plus 30x minus 5278. And combine like terms. Final answer. Put that in red. It's getting a little crowded here. X cubed minus 13x squared plus 56x minus 78. Final answer there. 27. Solve this guy, so quartic, but notice It's quartic, then it drops to quadratic. I'm going to subtract 4 from both sides, which means it's got quadratic form. So it's x squared plus 4 and x squared minus 1. So solutions from here are imaginary. X squared equals negative 4 gives me x equals plus or minus 2i. And from here, x squared equals 1 gives me x equals plus or minus 1. So 4 solutions, plus and minus 2i, plus and minus 1. And find the quotient and the remainder when this is divided by x plus 2. Let's give myself a little more room here, hit the scroll down bar. And I'm going to do synthetic division here. That I think was the obvious choice. So what makes this 0? Negative 2 makes it 0, so that goes in my little divisor box. Coefficients. Negative 2 is my quartic, negative 3 is my cubic, 5 is my quadratic, 7 is linear, 3 is constant, so there are no gaps in there. Bring down the first term, multiply, add, multiply, add, multiply, add, multiply, add. There's my remainder. The quotient is negative 2x, so it was quartic. I divided by a first degree, so that makes it cubic, plus x squared, plus 3x, plus 1, with a remainder of 1, which is written as plus 1 over x plus 2, right? It's 1 out of this is left. Final answer, end of page 5. We'll see you in a bit.